My children should have been born at the turn of the third cold current, but they choked on your oil and poison and excrement. Why we should live like this for just one day longer.
I say again, we come in peace.
For calm as the cleanup operation.
Near the coast, the crew of a fishing boat is hard at work. After the captain throws a plastic bottle into the water, the men are horrified to hear a roar. Suddenly something starts moving and screeching inside the fishing net. A terrifying creature emerges from the pile of fish and the captain opens fire. In London, Barclay is awakened by his phone vibrating. However, it's not his normal phone doing it. He has to run to his dresser to get his work phone. Barclay works for the United Nations Intelligence Task Force, also known as UNIT. After seeing the message, Barclay rushes to wake up his kid Kirby and explains that he's been called for a work emergency, so they'll have to stay with their mother for a while. Sergeant Hannah picks Barclay up and isn't happy when she learns that he wants to drop off their kid first. During the trip, Kirby wonders why their father knows a soldier, so Barclay invents some excuse about security at work because Kirby doesn't know his real job. His ex-wife Barbara welcomes Kirby happily, but she's angry with Barclay because his job always gets in the way of people's lives. When Barclay returns to the car, Hannah informs him that his mission is to replace Agent Roger, who is currently on another assignment. They make it to a private airport and board a plane where General Austin shares their itinerary. The mission details are on their tablets, but no matter how many times Barclay tries to open them, the system won't grant him access. Thinking Barclay mistyped the password, Pip takes pity on him and shows him a video of a strange creature attacking the person behind the camera. Feeling on the verge of panicking, Barclay explains to Pip that he replaced Roger once in 2020 when he had to leave in a hurry because his wife had a premature birth. He only had to answer Roger's phone, which never even rang. Since then, Barclay is on the system as Roger's replacement. However, he's only an administrative clerk, not an agent. Pip realizes he showed the video to someone without clearance and immediately stops talking to him. The plane leaves the group on an island, where a helicopter picks them up and takes them to Cala Escondida. Here a team of UNIT soldiers has already made camp and are getting their weapons ready. Soon the group makes it to a building at the edge of the village, and Austin explains that the villagers didn't want it too close to their homes. When they enter, everyone is put through decontamination before they meet the colonel, who introduces them to the monster killed by the fishermen. They strung it up on the wall in hopes of making money out of it as an attraction. UNIT saw the posts online and declared it a hoax before flying here to take control of the situation. Austin nicknames it Homo aqua, but a scientist corrects him, saying its scientific name is Homospondyle. She's found a pearl at the base of the creature's neck, matching all the homospondyles that UNIT encountered in the past. Yet they still don't understand the pearl's purpose. Austin makes the scientist put the pearl back and theorizes that the creatures receive the pearl at birth. He also sends everyone out to investigate. Before leaving, Barclay looks at the homospondyle and crosses himself. On the clifftop, the group joins the soldiers and Austin wonders what a homospondyle is doing in an area with not much depth. The colonel reminds him of the underwater avalanche of 2020, which severed communication cables, and blames it on these creatures. Then they use a machine to send out a signaling translation pulse, which is so high-pitched that it makes Barclay tremble. Now they must wait for an answer. That night Barclay asks if he can make a call, but Hannah explains that they can't use their phones yet. Barbara has messaged him multiple times about some issues with Kirby's school and she scolds him for caring more about his job. Meanwhile, Pip and another soldier are on night guard duty for the homospondyle body. While they chat, they take a few steps and realize that the ground has been covered in mud. At first they think it's just a leak, but suddenly the soldier starts sinking and they realize the whole ground has actually transformed into mud. Pip walks as close as possible to try to help her, but she can't reach his hand and he's starting to sink too. Eventually her body is fully submerged and she drowns. As the water reaches Pip's waist, he asks for help on the radio. However, the soldiers only hear static. Soon a creepy hand grabs Pip's shoulder to drown him too. Then a homospondyle jumps out of the hole and takes the body of the dead creature. At that moment an alarm goes off and the team runs to the building, only to find it empty. The floor is back to normal, but Barclay sees a piece of metal stuck in it. He pulls it until a whole chair comes out. Austin tries to call Pip and the other soldier, but the answer is pure static. He keeps trying until he hears his own voice coming from the floor. Everyone rushes to dig until they see a hand. Barclay is shaken by the sight of a dead body, so he goes outside for fresh air. When Austin checks on him, Barclay finally tells him that he's just a clerk. However, Austin is fine with this because the rules say that at times of historical, political, or cultural impact a civilian must stand with the military team as a witness. Hannah admits she's frustrated because it took her years to get important missions like this, but Barclay got it by mistake. She also shares that the Homo spondyles were on Earth before humans, who appeared while the creatures were hibernating underground. The planet eventually reformed and sealed them in. In fact, UNIT was created to deal with these kinds of supernatural events. Hana wonders if the Homo spondyles are attacking because they want the planet back. Their conversation is interrupted when a soldier announces that a Homo spondyle has been seen on the coast. Everyone rushes to the spot and Barclay is given a camera to record everything. Austin makes everyone put their guns down as a Homo spondyle comes out of the water and screeches at them. Using the translator, Austin offers a kind welcome and asks for a diplomatic meeting. When the creature points out that humans have killed their kind, Austin replies that the Homo spondyles have killed humans too, so he wants everyone to drop the violence and start a friendship. The creature agrees but also disagrees, and the translator can't catch the full meaning of the sentence. Suddenly more Homo spondyles emerge from the water and the soldiers panic, but Austin repeats that they've come in peace until the leader Homo spondyle agrees. Afterward, Austin asks the leader to repeat the previous sentence, and the translation says, "We are talking to the whole world right now." Suddenly every human receives an emergency alert on their phones announcing a major incursion. All over the world, people are shocked to see the Homo spondyles emerging from the seas in huge numbers. As phone videos go viral, reporters spend every hour covering this news. World leaders start the H2O diplomacy initiative and build a waterway leading into the Imperial House, where the peace discussions will be held. Barclay goes home and tells Barbara that she'll have to take care of Kirby a bit longer. He blames it on an important promotion and sends Barbara £3,000 to her bank account to keep her calm. Sometime later, important military leaders gather at the Imperial House to start the peace discussions. When a paparazzi drone comes too close to the window, a guard immediately shoots it down. Thankfully the windows are made of one-way glass so it couldn't take any pictures. Roger bursts into the main room and yells at Barclay for stealing his spot in such an important event, but the soldiers quickly kick him out. The engineers then activate the water system to start filling up the tank. It works well at first, but soon a pipe breaks. The team rushes to close that particular pipe and redirect the water, so the tank is ready just in time. Soon 4 Homo spondyles come in, followed by 2 Pisomorphas and a more human-like creature called Homomorpha. Assigned Ambassador Hines welcomes them and the machine translates, but he's interrupted by the Homomorpha. Her name is Salt and she can speak all human languages. Hines finishes the welcome speech with a plant that grows on Mount Everest, the highest point on the planet. Salt responds by making her guards drop the dead eggs of her unhatched children and explains that they didn't survive because of humanity's pollution. She refuses to accept Hines as an ambassador and says she'll only talk to Barclay. Everyone is confused by this, so Salt mentions that Barclay showed respect for her people and touches her pearl to play the clip of him crossing himself. She asks him to be the ambassador for the human race and after lots of denial and hesitation, he responds okay. Hines announces that the meeting is adjourned and guards immediately take Barclay away. Unit Commander Kate meets him in private room and asks him if he ever had contact with the Homo spondyles, so he swears he didn't. Kate warns him that her intelligence team is investigating his whole life and family. In fact, some soldiers are picking up Barbara and Kirby. Barclay swears he didn't want this to happen but also points out that Unit needs him right now. When Hines leaves the building, reporters surround him but he refuses to talk about his dismissal. The internet goes crazy because a secret civilian has taken over the representation of humanity and some people say that strange creatures shouldn't have power over their politics. The Prime Minister isn't happy about this either and asks Kate to tell Salt that they don't approve of their choice. In the Imperial House, Kate informs Salt that the committee wants her to trust Hines. Salt points out that she speaks of trust but insists on meeting her in private and demands to talk to Barclay. He nervously joins Kate at the front and explains he isn't an expert, but Salt wants him for his kindness and not his expertise. She asks him what he really wants and not what the committee told him to say, so he admits he thinks it's time for civilians to have a voice too because this affects everyone. Salt agrees and threatens to end negotiations if Barclay doesn't present tomorrow. Afterward, Barclay is taken to an armored vehicle where he sees Kate. He wonders if she'll kill him, so she shows him her gun but assures him she's kidding. Kate explains she's worked hard to build a better world for everyone and wants them to work together for peace. Barclay is then transported to the diplomatic hotel, where General Dominique secretly takes a picture of him. In a private room, Barclay reunites with his family and they freak out when they hear about his new job. Kirby thinks it's cool, but Barbara is worried about her job and Kirby missing school days. Barclay thinks that this historical event should be a priority and calls Salt beautiful, so Barbara mocks him. Kate and her team analyze every word Salt said. She kept saying "we" during the speech, so they wonder if these creatures share a consciousness. When Salt inhaled to smell the plant, her group did it at the same time, including the fish. She also softened her language and used sarcasm. At the lab, 2 scientists begin scanning the dead eggs. They also take a few samples, and one of the scientists steals one by hiding it in his pocket. Later in the evening, the scientist meets Sir Keith and gives him the sample in exchange for his citizenship, although he becomes upset when he realizes the deal doesn't include his mother. Afterward, Keith meets with Dominique and another general to hand them the sample. He works in the energy industry and the H2O initiative has a chance of ruining it. Dominique explains they've run a simulation and there's a chance of recession, not to mention that people are already panicking. The US president's priority is to protect the stability of the economy, and Keith's is to protect his companies. Kate may have a lot of influence on the Prime Minister, but Keith assures his friends that at the end of the day, the Prime Minister will listen to him because he's the biggest donor. That night, Kate receives a message warning her that the media has discovered Barclay's identity. The next morning, reporters are waiting for him outside the hotel and he needs extra soldiers for protection. Kate asks her team to investigate and they quickly discover that Dominique leaked the picture. To calm the press down, Kate agrees to allow 50 reporters in the hall but no live broadcasting. When the meeting starts, the guards inform Dominique that she's been banned and kick her out. Barclay is shaking while Kate and Austin give him as much advice as they can in just a few minutes. The tank is refilled and Salt returns with her guards. Barclay says hello so Kate reminds him to read the speech they prepared for him. He apologizes for what happened to the eggs and Salt asks if he's a father. After he says yes, she accepts his apology. Then Salt asks for a glass of water from the river and refuses to talk again until she gets it. The soldiers run to the river and bring a full glass of water, which is very brown. Salt asks Barclay to drink it and Kate immediately tells him not to do it since it could kill him. Her team writes a message to make him say that the government is aware of the pollution crisis and is working on it. However, Salt interrupts him and says she wants his real words, not political emptiness. Kate insists that he needs to stick to the script, but Barclay removes his earpiece. He admits that society is stupid and that the planet is on the verge of destruction. He goes on an angry rant about humans going through their routines thinking it's not their problem and not their fault. The kids do know and he wants to start listening to them today. Salt says that Barclay is her favorite human, making him laugh. However, Austin and Hannah aren't impressed. After the meeting, lots of civilians are cheering for Barclay outside the hotel. He tells his family that he feels amazing and they're proud of him. He admits to Kirby that he wishes he had listened sooner to them. On TV, reporters keep talking about him and call him passionate. Barbara asks about Salt and Barclay realizes she's jealous. Meanwhile, Austin tells Kate that the H2O committee has created new models for environmental regulations. He also informs her that the French government demands that Dominique be allowed in the hall. Kate points out they have evidence of her betrayal, but unfortunately Dominique has lots of influence and they have no choice. The team is now studying mycelium networks, which are fungal threads that connect specific plants. They believe that's what the homospondyles may be using to communicate and the pearl is the connection point. That night, Barclay looks at classified pictures of what the homospondal cities used to look like before humans took over. Kirby interrupts him because they can't sleep and admits they're worried about his safety. Barclay assures them he'll be fine and reminds them that they'll be moved to a safe house tomorrow. The next morning, reporters surround Barclay again and he barely gets to avoid them. A new meeting begins and Barclay informs Salt that the government promises a 50% reduction of contamination by 2065. Salt wants to know why it'll take so long, so Barclay explains it'd take time to gather the resources to tackle the problem. Salt says that 40 years is unacceptable and Barclay points out they've waited for millions of years, so 40 more isn't much. This angers Salt, who starts listing all the ways contamination has hurt her people. Barclay gets nervous and apologizes. Salt believes him, but she knows the world leaders don't mean it. When Barclay tries to convince her that humanity's greatest desire is to fix things, Salt replies that she shall grant it. Suddenly the sky gets dark and thunder rumbles. A strange noise makes people think a storm is coming, but actually it isn't water. Plastic is now falling from the sky in horrifying quantities all over the world. People on the streets panic and run to find protection. Barbara asks her driver to take them out of there. Kate's team detects that the plastic is coming out of the seas and rivers. While all the leaders are evacuated, Kate asks Salt to stop this, however Salt says they're cleaning up humanity's mess. Barclay calls Barbara and tells her to come to the Imperial House. The driver is trying to find an open road, but the plastic is starting to block most of the streets. Suddenly a huge object falls on the hood of the car, destroying the engine and hurting the driver. Barbara tells her kid to run, so Kirby gets out of the car and has to dodge a rolling tire. Barbara checks on the driver, but he's already dead. She calls Barclay and tells him to find Kirby on the street, then she starts running too. Barclay rushes outside and looks for Kirby. He notices that they're about to be hit by a falling anchor, so Barclay tackles Kirby to save them just in time. Barbara then joins them and the whole family runs to hide in the Imperial House. Austin sees this incident as the homospondyles declaring war. All TV channels around the world are covering the plastic rain and people on the internet say that the homospondyles want humans dead. All governments announce that the streets aren't safe and tell their citizens to stay inside. Eventually the plastic rain stops and now all the trash from the ocean including the Titanic covers every city in the world. The damage bill is in the hundreds of billions, yet the governments say they're already getting ready for repairs. A former political leader says this incident is a call to arms and thinks humans need to unite against the homospondyles. During the next meeting, Barclay tells Salt that they approached this Congress in good faith, but their actions have jeopardized the diplomatic process. He swears that they don't want war, but Salt claims the war began a long time ago and humans started it, so she simply returned what is theirs. More vague political words appear on the screen and Barclay decides to ignore them again. He admits that the homospondyles are smarter than humans and understands their concerns, but now people are hurt and scared. And when humans are scared, They do terrible things. Kate forces him to read again, so Barclay says the United Nations demands a peace agreement for the duration of these talks. Salt agrees on 3 conditions. 1. The pollution of oceans and waterways will stop immediately. 2 is a formal designation of borders, which means that the homospondyles want the entirety of all oceans and waterways. People wouldn't be allowed to travel on ships because they evolved to be on land. She also mentions the sky and forbids planes, saying that the air above the ocean is part of the ocean too. Leaders in the audience start freaking out and explain that the modern world depends on imports, including food. However, Salt refuses to listen to anyone who isn't Barclay and yells at them to stop. Suddenly her body changes into a male body with a male voice. Barclay apologizes and tells everyone to sit down and shut up. While Salt returns to her previous body, Barclay explains that people are scared and they fear what they don't understand, but they don't mean to offend. Then Salt asks for the 3rd condition by touching her pearl to make a map appear on every screen. A spot in the middle of the ocean is marked and Barclay realizes she wants the rest of the meetings to be underwater. Salt wants them to prove their commitment to peace and equality by meeting them in their world. Kate's team studies the spot and discovers it's the Romanche Trench, one of the deepest waterways on the planet. It is 25,000 feet and 5 miles down. Submarines have imploded in less than half that. Kate asks Barclay not to answer, but he tells Salt that he agrees to all her requests. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.